You're listening to How I See It, hosted by Han. You guessed it, that's me. I am here to motivate and inspire you with guests from all different industries and backgrounds. So get ready for personal stories of success, of growth, full of highs and lows, and of course, unapologetic realness. This is How I See It. Hi guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm here for a solo. Per usual, I feel like every first episode of the year, I am usually here for a solo. And today, if you're watching, you can see I have my laptop because there's a lot I want to say. No New Year's resolutions for me, no vision board, no 2025 recap. And that's not because I do not have goals. I obviously have so many goals, always. But I believe that the charge, and I've always believed this, the charge attached to the end of the year and the beginning of a new year can just set us up for intense disappointment. There are a lot of amazing things and there are a lot of shitty things that happen every year. And I have gotten used to and honestly embraced the dualities that come with 365 days. I work really hard. I have so many dreams. There are so many things I want to accomplish, and I will continue to work hard to get what I want while also prioritizing the pursuit of more physically, mentally, emotionally, and beyond. Pursuing healing has actually been just as hard and honestly just as rewarding as the pursuit of my dreams and career. And on a bad day, I probably wouldn't admit that, but it's true. And I think it's all encompassing. So today it was really important for me to talk about the idea of setting goals and what it looks like to really sit in the in-between while you're trying to make it. With that said, none of it is easy. And I feel like no one talks about how hard it is year after year to continue to grind for your dream, for your business, for your brand, for your mental health. Healing is just as grueling. A lot of people share that after you've made it. And I love that. I mean, we do that here. I love hearing people's stories, but I do not think enough people share what it looks like in between. What it looks like from the start to the I've made it. What it looks like to continue to generate income, continue to wake up and have motivation, do what you need to do, and honestly, like generate a will to live. I mean, I'm joking, but not really. But seriously, on a day-to-day and a year-to-year, it takes so much will and motivation to continue to fight for what you see for yourself. You're essentially fighting to make it. So today I thought I would dive into what it looks like, in my opinion, to actually make it, especially as someone who really believes that contentment is impossible, and the tools I have implemented to help me in the in-between phase, to keep the motivation going, to keep the fire lit under my ass from a financial standpoint, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, and from a mental health standpoint. It's exhausting, it's grueling, especially when you're burnt out, but it's rewarding and it's worth it. I have to believe so, but there's a lot involved. So let's first unpack what it means to make it. I think that's different for everyone, but I really spent the last week, and especially like my flight home from Jackson, I was really thinking about like in words, like what does it mean to make it? And I think if I had to put a definition on it, I would say it, or at least a definition that I think we should all live by. I think making it is when you honor the things you know you can do and achieve and want to do at that and work to the best of your ability to do so. Making it is kind of ethereal, especially considering the fact that we're never content. And I won't go on that rant because I've done it so many times. But I think the idea of making it and achieving your dreams can become a bit disappointing and ethereal, honestly, because it seems to always change and we seem to accomplish things and never be satisfied. I mean, we see celebrities, we hear about successful people who have done everything. They've gotten their dream, they're a famous singer, they're a famous actor, they own this multi-million-dollar company, and they're still unhappy. And I think making it is about finding peace in the mundanity, like I've said many times before, but not just that. I think it's following our intuition around what we know is available to us, what we know we're capable of, what we know we're capable of achieving, business-wise, relationally, and mental health-wise even. Like you guys have heard my story many times. I think that I always knew, even in my most depressed days, that I was meant for more, that I was meant to do something more. I wasn't meant to just be rotting in bed, depressed, not wanting to live. I think sometimes the pursuit of more, the dedication to pursuing our dreams or pursuing more for ourselves can sometimes be judged as unhealthy or high achieving. But I don't think it's unhealthy in the way that I'm talking about it. I think more so what I'm talking about is following alignment and purpose. And I think this requires us to know ourselves well, anchoring ourselves in who we are and what we know we can achieve, if that makes sense. I think identity anchoring, I'll call it, while pursuing value is the reality of what it looks like to work for our goals so that we can feel like we've made it. Our anchor isn't to find contentment. I mean, that's not going to happen. It's to constantly be working towards what we know we want and what we're capable of. So, for instance, I know that I want this podcast to be on the top charts. I know it will one day, but that is not happening right now. I am not the Skinny Confidential. I'm not the Diary of a CEO. I'm not Mel Robbins. We have grown. We have a strong listenership. Shout out to the people that listen every week, but I'm not there yet. That is not reality. So for me, I have not made it yet. When I get there, for right now at least, I will be able to say I've made it. But maybe a few years after that, I will want something else. Maybe I will want to start a line. In that instant, I now have not made it because I now see a new goal and a new potential for myself. I have to work for something again because my potential is actually flexible with my identity, with my wants, with my desires. Our wants and desires change over time. It's what makes us human. If we start to view making it as something that changes with our identity, our goals, our life phases, I think we can pursue our heart's desires, our dreams with less charge and less disappointment and honestly more grit, with more joy. So the anchor isn't contentment. Like I said, the anchor is actually self-knowledge in who you are and who you want to be and having the courage to question that constantly. And to step into the pursuit of that even after achieving what you thought was making it to begin with. And honestly, I think that makes me think of my own story. I think sometimes we're scared to let go of identities and pursue new ones. But I believe that if something is bothering you or you can't seem to stop thinking about some type of potential for yourself, you should probably pursue it. I think, again, it's important to note that I'm not talking about like toxic dissatisfaction or, like I said before, like hyper achievement. I think the key is, at least for me, the way I do it is acknowledging how proud I am of the work I put in, how proud I am along the way when I hit those milestones, while still admitting that I don't feel like I've made it because I know that I should be somewhere I'm not yet. So I think this requires self-awareness, honestly, to check in with yourself, clarifying what you want, what you're capable of, what you refuse to settle for, whether it's your business, your career, your relationships, your mental health. You can't pursue something without being so clear on who you are, what your standards are, what you're capable of producing, what you're no longer willing to tolerate, and also what is required, actually required, to get to your goals, your dreams. So just to hammer it in, because I feel like this is so important to me. Getting the podcast in the top charts, earning enough from it to choose focus over being spread thin, becoming a version of myself I already recognize. When I reach that, I've made it for that phase. I think everyone can insert their personal goals there. Then when something else appears, a new want emerges, a new life goal, whether that's a new brand, whether that's a family, whether that's anything, I no longer have made it anymore. And that's not a bad thing. That's not harsh. That doesn't mean I failed or that I'm never satisfied or that life is miserable. It means that my identity expanded. And I know, because it's a choice, that I will always have the courage to keep letting it. Making it isn't permanent satisfaction. It's the ongoing ability to tell the truth about what you want and you keep moving towards it. And on top of that, and most importantly, working hard to move towards it, like really hard. And that's the chunk of what I want to get into today. I think the in-between from, like I said, the start to the making it phase, achieving that goal, achieving that dream, is not understood properly. From my perspective, I do not think enough people understand the reality of what it takes and how long it takes and how hard it is to continue to show up towards the goal. and keep pursuing it. I honestly don't want to get into too much who to blame. I don't want to get too existential about it, but honestly, you could say social media, maybe the glamorization of entrepreneurship, of relationships, of mental health, the glamorization of what it looks like to have a business, what it looks like to have a partner, what it looks like to pursue healing. It's all glamorized, all of it. And I would say because of this, a lot of people give up. A lot of people, when it's too hard and it makes them uncomfortable, when it doesn't happen fast enough, when you have to do things you don't want to do, they let go of it. They let go of the dream, of the business, of the idea, and they end up very depressed and apathetic. And I think it's partly because there is this false representation of reality, of how easily things are supposed to come, and a false representation of what is required to make it. So for example, I'm just going to use my life for context because I think it's the easiest way to explain it. And I really want to get behind the curtain on some of this stuff, especially as the new year approaches. I know there's so many people that are trying to start side hustles, businesses, really get into the nitty gritties of like what they want for their life. So I think it's only fair that we start acting real about what it takes. I knew I wanted to build a community. I knew I wanted to create content, work with brands, and I knew I wanted to talk about mental health and healing. For me, that career started as an influencer. But after like 2 or 3 years of content creating, I kind of plateaued. Like I hit the salary mark that allowed me to, live, pay my bills, live an okay, decent life. But I don't want to live an ordinary, decent life. I want more. I want to make a lot of money and I want to live a certain lifestyle, specifically without anxiety. The funny thing is that I used to say that if I had enough money to pay my bills, pay my rent, live like an okay social life, that I would feel, wait for it, that I had made it. That didn't last very long because the thing about full-time content creation is that if you're not above a certain following, which is most people, your money is never guaranteed. It's dependent on your ability to pitch, your algorithm, your engagement, your content. It's not stable. I did not like that. I also knew that I wanted to up-level my podcast. That was very important to me in the new phase. And I knew the way I wanted to do it and that I had to do it was going to cost more money that I didn't have. So I had to create another stream of income, a good one that was going to be really profitable, but not require too much from me where I couldn't give to the things I cared about. And I was already working so much, by the way, I was, but now that I look back and I laugh because I'm doing so much more now, but I had to find something that made sense for me. That led to me starting social media consulting for founders and individuals. And then that led to the creation of a full-blown social media agency. We now have like 15 clients because I started to get approached by hospitality clients and then brands. That then worked to get rid of instability. I mean, like more intense instability. I still have to like deal with clients coming in and out, but this still solved the instability problem and also the money problem. I needed more money to play with selfishly, but also to put back into the business to move the needle. This led to renting studios in LA and New York to record the podcast completely in person and professionally, to hiring a couple people part-time, to orchestrating shoots, paying for events, parties at budgets that a lot of smaller creators wouldn't be able to afford. But because I had these multiple streams of income, I was able to, and things started moving quickly. The needle started moving much quicker the last 2 years. And then this eventually led to the lease of the studio I'm filming from right now, to house my podcast and photo shoots and have an office. And then it turned into its own revenue stream, which was like another form of financial backing for myself because I'm able to rent it out for people to record their podcasts and do photo shoots. All of this obviously happened over the course of a few years, and it all sounds amazing, and it is, but it takes so much work. The amount of energy and effort it takes to be running multiple businesses at one time is exhausting. But it's the reality of working to build a business. It is the reality of working to quote unquote make it, fulfill my dream. My advice, if you are trying to pursue your own business, you're trying to pursue your dream, and you're in my predicament, you have to add multiple streams of income. This is what not enough people talk about. This is reality. This is how you get shit done. This is how you move the needle, specifically when it comes to launching something, brand, business, podcast. Again, I'm sharing all of this just to be like so transparent. I want you guys to know like what the in-between looks like. And this isn't just me. This is all entrepreneurs, but my money comes from brand deals, content creation, and UGC opportunities and the podcast. on one side. And then the social media agency that I started 2.5 years ago, where we run the socials and social strategies to founders, business owners, hospitality projects, etc., brands. We do UGC, social management, influencer relations. We have around, like I said, 15 clients now. And then the studio office space for the podcast studio. Those are all of my streams of income. This is what keeps me insanely busy. This is the chaos of the in-between, but this is what keeps me financially backed. This is realistically how I am going to make sure my podcast is on the top charts, by working my ass off so I have money to live the life I want, do the things I want to do, engage in the routines that I want to engage in, and fuel my brand, my podcast financially. This is all not easy. It takes so much work, and it requires loads of motivation. What is required is loads of sacrifice, grit, and time. One of my best friends, Nika, great example of this. She owns Jiv Athletics with her husband, and she worked for 7 years at a bar. She actually came on the podcast if you want to hear more of her story, but she worked at a bar for 7 years to fund her business. She would work from 9 to 5 on Jiv during the day, and then right at 5, she'd work till the wee hours of the morning at a bar in Little Italy here in San Diego. She did that for 7 years. She now runs the company full-time with her husband, and they still work their ass off. It is still not easy for them. I am on year 7 right now of trying to be like full-time content creator, podcaster. I am running the show. I have a couple assistants that help me, but no one full-time. I am having to run a crazy big ship. And a lot of people ask me, like, where does this motivation come from? How do you stay motivated? I think there's a lot of practices that are necessary, and I'll get into some of them today. Practices necessary to keep yourself fueled physically, mentally, financially. But honestly, motivation comes from knowing that you're not in alignment with who you want to be and what you know you're capable of. That's the thing that keeps me going. I think that's the thing that keeps most successful people going. And again, that's not just for building a business, though that's kind of what I'm focusing on today. I think that is for all the pillars. And I don't mean like manifesting bullshit, like you're not who you are or you're not aligned with like your highest self. Like though those things are great. I think it's knowing what you want, and it's knowing what sacrifice is required and not giving up until you get there. So the question kind of becomes, how do you optimize the in-between? The hard, grueling in-between. How quickly can you close the gap between effort and results? What skills actually move the business forward? How can you optimize? How can you create multiple streams of income? Is this something keeping you busy, or is it just keeping you procrastinated? How much money do you need to generate to fund your growth? Buy back time? Support yourself while you're building? What does this actually require of me? How much work? How much consistency? How long can I operate in this phase? These are all things I'm thinking about all year long. They're not resolutions. They're not things I look at just the beginning of the year. There are things I'm constantly looking at. There are things that entrepreneurs, brand builders, business pursuers are thinking about constantly. And it's the things I challenge you to think about if you're trying to do the same. A lot of people quit because the reality of the gap of the in-between between starting and quote unquote making it feels too big. It feels too heavy. It feels too hard. So let me share some things, big and small, deep and not deep, to keep the fire lit under your ass. When it comes to my business, when it comes to my mental and physical health, what practices and mindset switches do I need to implement in a routine way to make sure I'm mentally and physically healthy, financially content, and also what's going to move the needle forward in pursuit of what I want for myself, in pursuit of making it. First, like I said, multiple streams of income. My best advice, if you do not know what to start on the side to produce more income, and if you don't want to do what Nika did and grind at a bar from night to the wee hours of the morning, shout out to Nika, is to understand the value you bring. You have to understand the value you bring. If you cannot figure that out, ask your friends. I do this all the time. I even did this for the episode today. I asked all my friends what they think I do that is of value, that sets me apart, so that I had things to talk about, so I could share with you guys, so I could offer value. Ask the people around you what you do best. Pay attention to what people ask of you all the time. That is where you will find your side hustle. And your side hustle may in fact double and triple your income. Trust me. My sweet friend Michaela told me that I make moves in my business that do not depend on the opinions of my peers. Very sweet thing of her to notice, but I think she's right. I gut check the people I trust constantly. And I think that is required to be a successful entrepreneur, business owner, brand owner. And I think it's what I'm kind of speaking to. Let other people share opinions with you. Ask people with open ears. Listen. We do not listen enough. There's always something to be learned. And I think it gets your inner compass going. I know it gets mine. I find that it helps me make decisions about what I want because I can gut check how I feel when they share their opinion based on my reaction. So whether you're trying to find like a side hustle or create another stream of income, or you feel stuck about anything, ask people. Ask people you trust what they think. I would say the biggest part of holding onto motivation during this in-between stage is also making sure your mental health is in check, optimizing your mental health, pursue healing, pursue doing the work. I do this in big and small ways, so let me just kind of break it down a little bit of like the things that I feel are just like core routine. Supplement routine. If you are above the age of 21 and not taking supplements, let this be your sign. Get on a supplement routine. It is not just good for your physical health, it is good for your mental health. There's so much research. I've had so many people on the podcast who are certified, very smart, teach me these things over the years, and it's completely changed the game for me. I think the basics are fish oil, B complex, probiotic, magnesium. This is the bare minimum, you guys. Do your research. I have to say that. But you should just trust me. I now have been doing NAD injections twice a week for the last 2 months. I'm obsessed. It's a game changer for energy, sleep, and also I just want to optimize my health. There's so much research about it. I actually am having Dr. Sarah on in a couple weeks, so you guys will hear more about all of that stuff, but NAD, love it. I go to therapy 1 time a week. I've been doing therapy for many years. I took like a year break. 2-year break actually, and I'm back in it once a week again. I do not know what I would do if I didn't have it. I have a deep understanding that I cannot be successful without staying regulated. Like, it's not going to happen. I always say that entrepreneurship is the biggest mirror to what you have not worked through yet. And it's true. With that, I think a huge part of making it through the in-between phase and like holding on to motivation and continuing to do what you need to do is all in mindset. I know it's so overstated, but it's true. I think this applies to every pillar around relationships, around business, around your mental health. A huge part of my own healing was affirmations. I've shared this. I think the affirmations are one of the most underrated things that can completely change your mental health. I learned about the power of affirmations about 6 years ago when I first started doing them. The neuroplasticity of the mind and how powerful our thoughts actually are was new to me 6 years ago. When I started therapy, I was 22, 23. I experienced the power in real time through the practice of starting my day every day for a couple years straight with affirmations, specific ones that were opposite of the thoughts and limiting beliefs that would come up for me every day. I now do them once a week. We post them on the podcast, as you guys see. But when I was in the thick of it, it was every day. I recently added breath work into my routine, as some of you have probably heard on the podcast. It has genuinely unlocked like a new level of healing for me. My entire therapy journey right now is focused on getting back into my body, feeling my feelings in my body. I am not someone that feels a lot in my body. I am an intellectualizer, and it has been amazing to see how regulated it makes me feel. And there are tons of ways you can do it. For instance, there's this app that's called Open, and it's absolutely amazing. After breath work, I just feel at peace, not just mentally, but like in my body. I think focusing on breath allows me to put my mind at pause for a second, slow the spirals down, if you will. So I really have been loving this app. You can actually join the Open app and join the 21-day breathwork and meditation program for free. It's called Back to Life. It started at the beginning of this year. Essentially, you'll go through these 3 phases designed to reconnect with your body, expand your capacity to manage stress, and regulate your nervous system, of course. So if you're looking to try something for stress, something to regulate, something to optimize your mental health, something to get you back in your body, especially in the in between, start practicing breath work. I promise it makes a huge, huge difference. And I'm really, really happy that I decided to take a chance and try it. Something else I do to manage motivation or lack thereof is to make sure that my anxiety is in check and that I'm doing things to keep it at a minimum. For instance, for the most part, like I do not doom scroll. I do not doom scroll on TikTok just for like work, for like strategy purposes, but like not for fun. It like dulls my motivation and it gives me immense anxiety. I'm a Google Calendar freak. I started time blocking my entire days, like hour to hour, like 2 years ago now. It reduced my anxiety, my mental noise, if you know what I mean, the spirals, the like 5 different voices at one time, and it got me locked in. Something I've had to work on this year is rest. Keeping motivation requires recovery. I let myself do things now that I want to do when it comes to resting, when it comes to relaxing. So like without guilt, which is something I really struggled with, I try to sleep in if I can and if I feel I need it. I skip a workout if I feel like I'm too tired or if I don't want to do it. It's very rare. I would say like I'm on my routine, my like 5 days a week workout situation, but like I don't know. There are some weeks that I'm like, I'm so exhausted. For instance, like Christmas the last 2 weeks, I've barely worked out in the last couple weeks. That's rare, but I'm letting myself have it because I'm just stressed. I have a lot to do and I don't have time. I go get a massage if I feel I want that. I go to Joshua Tree and escape if I feel like I want to. I actually force myself to take a couple days off quarterly now because that was something I felt really guilty doing. And I do it because I've realized over time that if I do not rest, I will not have motivation. The rest, the breaks, the self-care, it's all necessary to keep the machine running. I know everyone says like, we're not machines. Yes, I know that, but this is a machine, and to keep the machine going, the cycle going, you have to take breaks. I also make sure to like see my friends and like talk to people, connect with people. I think sometimes when you're so goal-oriented and you do see so much for yourself and you know you have things to do, especially when there's a lot to do, you can deprive yourself of connection and friendship. And I know there was a while and a period where I did that. Sometimes we get caught up in the go, go, go. Seeing people, community, connection, you can't stay motivated without it. So I try to see like, aside from the weekend, of course, I try to see like one friend a week for like dinner or like drinks, sometimes even 2. Like I try, even if it's for a short period, I try to make time to do something with friends, even if it's a phone call for an hour or like a sunset walk. Like I have to talk to people. Aside from all this, understanding what making it really is, looking at the in-between realistically, creating multiple financial streams, optimizing your mental health, here are a couple more things I will say that are important for staying motivated. This one applies to like career, entrepreneurial pillar specifically, but something that I really pride myself on is that I get things done no matter how long it takes. This may not be mental health coded, so sorry, but it's true. You will be up to ungodly hours of the night, especially in certain phases of your business, but it's required. I, for the most part, do not let the to-do list go to the next week. Most of the time, not even the next day. I get things done. I force myself to do it. I am really disciplined. I am like this with my workouts. I even calendar my workouts every day. I think of it like work and I go and I get it done. You have to be disciplined. I think this goes back to my piece around motivation being tied to what you see for yourself. When you understand that keeping promises to yourself is tied to your motivation, you become more disciplined and you want to be disciplined. And that discipline brings success. And I think that validation feels good and it keeps you going and it keeps you more motivated. Okay, and this last one I think applies to all pillars, career, mental health, all of it, is that I had a friend the other day tell me that I do everything that I say I'm going to do. I recently got on the phone with someone who I haven't seen or really talked to in a few years, and she reminded me of what I said the last time we saw each other. I guess I was going on and on about how I was going to be a full-time content creator and I was going to build a podcast that highlighted mental health and it was going to make people feel seen and less alone. And she kindly wanted to affirm me that I had done all of it. And then I was, of course, still doing it. Like I said, I don't think I've made it, but it's funny because I remember the conversation. I don't even think I was a full-time content creator yet. It was so long ago. But my point is that I am very careful about what I say out loud, what I tell people I'm going to do when it comes to the things I want to do, the things I'm going to do, what I see for myself, what I'm committed to. I am very careful about what I say because I know, like I said before, that confidence is built in keeping the promises to ourselves and honoring the things we speak over ourselves. My last solo, I talked about resilience and how it's tied to self-trust. I think this is what I'm trying to get at. You don't just need audacity to go far. You don't just need audacity to quote unquote make it, to achieve your dreams, to achieve the business, though it's definitely required. You need self-trust to keep going, to stay motivated, to believe you're not only capable, but worthy of what you want. And I think those things are tied to discipline. I think those things are tied to the things we speak outwardly, to the things we do, to the promises we keep to ourselves. But with all of that said, I really just wanted to share, and I can get more into it if you guys want in the future, just share what is actually required to pursue more, to pursue your dream, to pursue the business, and what it looks like in the thick of it. And the reality of the duration of the thick of it, and the reality of how hard it is to continue to pursue more, how hard it is to continue to muster up motivation. I mean, I've shared a bunch of the tools and tips today that I use, the multiple streams of income, the mental health practices, the supplements. That stuff is game changing, but it does not take away the difficulty. It doesn't take away how hard it is. It doesn't take away how much endurance it's required to make it. And again, I think making it evolves, it changes, and I think it's important to remember that. But the in between to where you start and the making it requires a lot of motivation, a lot of discipline. And I think everyone is capable of it. Every single person. I think we all should pursue more in different ways. And I think, like I said, for a lot of people, that can be a brand, a business, a podcast. It can be a relationship, a marriage, children. It can be mental health, healing from trauma. But to my point earlier, I do think a lot of people give up because it feels so hard. It feels so uncomfortable. And my goal today, and obviously through the entire seasons of the podcast, is to remind people of what it actually looks like, what is actually the reality behind success stories and people, what it actually looks like to run a podcast that's successful, that does well, while living a life where you can go and travel the world and have a studio spaces and host parties. Like, it takes work and it takes endurance and it takes a lot of sacrifice. I think we should all talk about it more and also accept that that's a little bit of part of the process. I do think, like I said, a lot of people quit because it feels difficult. It feels like it shouldn't be feeling this way. And let me tell you, it feels this way. It's hard. It's really, really hard. What I'll leave you with, especially going into the new year, is that there's going to be a lot of good stuff that happens this year. There's also going to be a lot of bad stuff that happens this year. And whether you are pursuing more in the sense of your business, your brand, your career, or your relationships, or your mental health, it's going to be hard. It's all hard. All good things are very hard, but you're capable of it. You can do it. You can self-motivate. There are tools you can initiate. There are mindset shifts you can make. And hopefully today's episode helped inspire you a little bit to get on going and maybe put a fire under your ass. I know I need it because I am extremely unmotivated right now. I'm actually taking a few days off next week that are much needed. But thank you guys so much for being here. I'm so excited for this year for the podcast. Also, I don't know if you guys can tell, my voice is like pretty much gone still. I've had like the worst cough ever. But I'm so excited for this year. We have so many cool guests coming on. There are so many people coming up, so many cool events we're hosting here in San Diego, in New York. I'm just stoked, and I'm so thankful for you guys for listening, for just being here, especially if you've been here from the beginning. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. If you haven't already, review the pod either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Follow out How I See It Pod on Instagram. And if you want to see more of the chaos of my life and what the in-between looks like on the way to making it, follow me at How Hand Sees It. But thank you guys so much. We're back with a normal episode next week.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope you leave here feeling motivated and inspired. Do not forget to rate and review the pod on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to follow How I See It Pod so you can keep up with podcast updates and see who's coming on next. And if you're not already, come join the fam and follow at How Han Sees It. Thank you guys.